So today, I am painting an Imperial Knight. I thought this was fitting for episode 50. Paint the biggest thing I ever have. Well, the biggest thing I've painted on stream, not the biggest thing I've ever painted. I'm gonna start with 4 colors. Try to get all of them on him in an hour. If we get through all that, then we'll see what we can do from there. But hoping to get these 4 colors on him at least. So, all his armor panels are primed white. All his everything not an armor panel is primed silver. So yeah, here we go. Gonna get started. So I'm gonna start with Blood Angels Red. And that's gonna be for all the hazard stripes. The hazard stripes on him are gonna be red and black. So yeah. Here we go, basically. Hopefully, this is going to be an interesting thing to film. I'm hoping that I get most of it on the camera. If not, I apologize. This is the biggest thing I have ever tried to film the painting of. So, apologies ahead of time. I'm going to do all the red hazards, or all the red stripes first. Then come back and do all the black stripes. Then do all the yellow. And then do all the silver. And I'm guessing we may already be past an hour at that point, even. So. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Making sure I get into all the things there. Right. He's got a lot of hazard stripes on him, so just gotta work at it, and eventually I'll paint the last one and we'll move on. This may not be the most interesting of streams just because it's going to be a lot of repetition. But it'll be interesting in the sense that you can see if I will be able to achieve what I've set out to achieve. Better paint fast, boy. Yep. Sure better. Trying to avoid as many mistakes as possible also. But if I make a mistake onto something that's going to be silver, that's better than if I make a mistake onto something that's going to be yellow. Onto something that's going to be silver is the best case scenario. Then onto something that's going to be black. Then onto something that's going to be yellow. And also, I need to make sure not to touch the stripes that are in other places while I'm painting more. Where aren't you? There we go. I like to always work on the... I like my work to be to the right of where I'm painting, so that's why I'm flipping this guy around for every line. I like to have the line on my left that I need to stop at and paint everything to the right of it. Pure personal preference. That you do not have to do the same thing. It's going to look like a candy cane for a while here. with these colors, with this primer color plus this color. Stripes probably weren't the greatest thing to pick for a speed paint, but a friend of mine who you local people will know on YouTube, you won't, but Stefan, he has a knight army, and I thought it would be neat for our armies to match at least somewhat, so that if we're playing in an apocalypse game or whatever, then we would have a large cohesive force. If COVID ever goes away, we might be able to have another apocalypse game. Wouldn't that be wild? Faster, faster. Yeah, basically. At all times, I need to be going faster. Alright, that's the stripes on the carapace. There they are. They're going well. Maybe you can ask Greg Hogan for speed painting tips. He does good with his contrast paint stuff. Yeah, I should talk to that guy. Definitely. We'll get on that. Alright, so just trying to figure out which lines to attack next. I'm trying to do all the ones that require this bigger paintbrush first, and then moving on, but I think that's actually it. I'm going to move to a smaller paintbrush now. I'm going to do these ones on his whatever this is here. Crotch guard, but I'm sure it has a more dignified name in the land of Imperial Knights. Have you tried going faster? Those stripes are pretty straight. Thanks. Wiggly stripes will be the death of you. Mine are not perfectly straight, but I like to think they're straight-ish. And from 3 feet away, straight-ish will work. I also did them, like this one bends, but it's on the undulation of the armor, so it's straight to each piece of armor. So that may end up not looking as good as I thought it would, but I thought it would be neat to do that. I'm also almost absolutely sure I'm going to make a mistake at some point and paint the wrong stripe pattern. Like when it goes past some of this detail, like some of the filigree. I'm sure I'll mess it up and paint a red where a black should be. Seriously, I wish my hands were that steady. I'm sure you could get there with some practice, potentially. For a lot of things, I feel like my hands are ridiculously unsteady. But stripes I seem to do okay with. I think it might be my years of painting stripes on Viking shields that did it. I painted somewhere north of 1,000 Viking, 28mm Vikings for a friend of mine several years back. Every single one of them, well, not every single one of them. About 7 of 10, every 7 out of 10 miniatures had a shield that got an individual striping pattern. So that definitely helped get my striping down. But then if you ask me to like paint a circle or something, it just looks like a blobby mess. So just thousands of Viking shields would do the trick. Yeah, I guess so. Now that I think about it. This is what I'm talking about of always wanting my work to the right. I gotta flip this guy upside down to get this stripe correct. This piece of armor is not attached properly. It's doing some wiggling. Not something I'm gonna fix now, though. I should just stop after this and be like, all right, Candy Cane Knight, let's go. I don't think that would look too good. For smaller stripes like this, I don't flip the knight over to have my work to the right because this stripe is small enough that it's almost the width of the brush. So for whatever reason, that works for me. And I am fully aware that I'm sure it would be different for some, but so I'm going to give a very, very, very simple heraldry lesson here. I know a little bit about heraldry. I followed or kept up with my grandparents' study of it since my grandma was a native of Denmark, and that whole side of my family is from Denmark. Sadly, the American part of my family does not have heraldry, at least not recent heraldry. But so on a thing like this, when it's split like this, this field would be the representation of a family or a clan or something. And if you had a field like that repeated, it would not be different. So this corner right here and this corner would be the same color because it would just be this rectangle repeated down here. However, potentially, the entire field, even though it's split, could represent a clan. And so you could have a pattern continuing across here. At least in Danish heraldry, that it was never done as far as I can tell. It would always be this is repeated here. But for me, I'm treating it as a single pattern. A pattern that would be on the entire thing, like this. And then these two fields are just put on top of it. So, if you're like, that's not how that would be, that's my reasoning, and I'm sticking to it. And some heraldry may behave differently. I'm not up on other countries, really. Perhaps like in England or somewhere else, they might have two field patterns like that are continuous. I don't know. A night before Christmas. Yeah, I mean literally. Or before Christmas. I got 2 more of these bad boys to paint, and then 4 little ones for my army. So there'll be lots of night painting in my future. I guess I can stop typing my angry email on Heraldry. Heraldry is a funny word. For some reason, when my brain reads the word heraldry, it wants to say heraldry. And I always have to prevent my mouth from actually saying that word. Because it sounds strange and I don't like it. Too much contrast paint on that stripe. It's okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Also, talking of Stefan, whose knights I'd like to try to emulate at least, so that they sort of match. He also had an idea that I've stolen. That is seems to be a lot of Space Marine players, and they don't seem to be going away. So he decided he was going to play knights just to mix it up and shelve his Space Marine army for a little while. And so I decided to do the same. I wasn't really feeling the Space Marines too much, and I never actually got around to fully painting a knight army. Painted some knights for some people, and I've painted a knight for myself. No, I've painted 2 knights for myself. But I figured I'd start over and get the whole army done, which he has done recently. And speaking of knight armies, Floyd in the chat, I believe he has a fully painted knight army. I could be wrong about the fully painted, but he has at least several knights painted for sure. So I'm not sure how competitive they'll be, but I think they'll be a lot of fun. And for now, at least, until maybe the Space Marines pull me back, I'll stick with these guys. Went to Georgia Havoc GT, and the Marines were out in full swing and not one night there. Dang. Yep, well. It's funny how the meta changes. I don't remember exactly, because I just was on the Grey Knight train the entirety of 8th edition. But I don't think Mono Knights ever made it in the meta in 8th. A Knight, obviously, was a huge thing. But I don't think that Mono Knights were ever the top of the meta. I could be forgetting. I may have blacked it out of my mind. But I don't think that was ever a thing. But, of course, there was a time when Imperial Soup was the thing, and the top 10 tables of every tournament were, oh, you have a Castellan. Hey, look, I have a Castellan. Everybody has a Castellan. Knights are kind of hindered in the current meta. A few pricey units trying to hold lots of objectives, get on all 4 quarters at once. Yeah. That is true. I think they'll probably get some help for that in their Codex supplement, or Codex rather, whenever it comes out. Like, Big Knights will count as 20 or something, 20 models. That would be... They just did it for Giants in AOS. If they did it for Knights, they might be spicy. Oh, the Triple Gallant One Crusader list for a while. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. I had forgotten about that. Yeah, so it was a thing. Not a thing anymore, unfortunately. If the rule of 3 wasn't a thing, you could run... the only knight you can run... The only knight that is few enough points to let you run 5 big knights is the Gallant right now. But rule of 3 kind of ruins your life there. I wanted to run 5 big knights, but the cheapest knight after the Gallant is 405. If you do that math, you will find you are over 2,000 points when you multiply by 5. 25 points over, in fact. So I will instead run 3 bigs. I think, is that what I did? Yeah, 3 bigs and 4 littles, I think I ended up with. Or 5 littles? I think 4 littles. That might make sense. I don't remember. Alright, so I think we're done with every red stripe. What time is it? Oh, 8:24. Yikes. Alright. Let's get on to the black stripes now. Actually pop this back off. Move back to this paintbrush. These stripes should be easier because we're just painting in between the red and the... Either the red and the red or the red and the detail. But we'll see. We will see. Ooh, a little bit of a mistake there, but that's okay. I'm sure there'll be a couple. I hope, basically what I hope for the Knight Codex is that it doesn't make them ridiculous to the point that they're the new thing that everyone needs to take. I just hope they become viable. I think probably in the current meta, where they stand, as with the objectives how they are, I think you can... Well, here's a... Let me go off on a tangent first. The word viable is very subjective. What does viable mean? I think for a lot of competitive players, viable means, can this list win a 5-round tournament? And I'm not sure for the competitive, the ultra competitive players, sure. But I think a lot of players who aren't good, like my quality of players, and like not to like completely like, you know, say I'm terrible. I'm not going to win. Like, I'm not going to be in the top 25 of LVO, for instance. I'm not going to win a 50-man tournament. I'll compete in all my games, but I'm just not quite there. And I think, and most people are like that, obviously. LVO has 600 entrants or whatever. Obviously, most people are not in the top 25. And sure, some people could have been in the top 25 with a dice roll another way or what have you. But many, 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 many people were never going to be in the top 25, no matter what they did. And so, I think a lot of people, those kind of people, will get stuck in their head that Nick Nanavati thinks this list, he won't take this list, therefore this list is trash. Or what have you. He's the only super competitive player that I can think of right now. Or in our local area, Nick, who's in the chat, Nick isn't going to take this list to a GT, so therefore it's shit. You know. It's not how really we should be thinking about lists. We should be thinking about lists like in relation to us. So for me, is this list viable? I'm thinking that knights are currently not viable because I don't think you'll even score 50 points in the current system. Even if you take your 10 for painting, I think against an average opponent playing a on-metal list, you won't score 50 points. Just because of how the secondaries are laid out and what you need to do to get on the objectives and how 2 Space Marines will outscore you on an objective, things like that. But if they moved them to give them count as 10 models and an objective secured, okay. Now we're still, I don't think, just with that rule change, we're not in, I'm going to go win LVO with this list, or someone really good is going to go win LVO with this list. Sorry, just holding my breath to do that line real quick. But it would move them to, I could go to a day tournament and go 2-1. Or I could go to a 2-day tournament and go 3-2 or 4-1 if I got lucky. That sort of thing. I think currently a mono knight list, and by mono knight I mean only knights in the codex, or only knights in your list. I think that list currently is a solid 1-2 in a day tournament, or solid 2-3, 1-4 at a 2-day tournament. Yeah, you're right. It would. 3 damage feet for sure. I think about what's cool / fluffy. Is it a well-rounded list, and can I do well enough to not horribly embarrass myself, which means not finishing 601st in a 600-man tournament for sure. I think knights are that. You're not going to embarrass yourself. Obviously, I think they're cool and fluffy. They're probably one of the hallmarks of 40k. So I don't think you're ever going to go wrong in the fluff department. What was the third thing? Oh, well-rounded. I mean, that's where you're going to... Well-rounded in what way? Survivable and shooty. That's kind of... Or survivable and damage. That's kind of 2 of the 3-pointed triangle there. 3-pointed triangle? Great. How many other kinds of triangles are there? You're lacking the score points. You can't score all your points based on killing things, unfortunately. So, I think that's probably where the knights fall off, is the well-rounded section of that breakdown. But, I mean, they just gave giants... if giants didn't have... AOS giants didn't have their count as a bunch of models on objectives, I think they would be well and truly a bad army. They'd be cool. No doubt they'd be cool. They'd hit hammers, absolutely. But you wouldn't be able to score any points. 2 grots sitting on an objective score over you. So I think really you could do a single page of the Knight Codex. Take page 74, whatever page it is in the giant book from AOS. Give that rule to Imperial Knights. Put the back cover, front cover, Codex, ship it. Done. You're welcome, GW. I mean, avoiding spamming certain units. Oh, I see. Sorry, I cannot get on that train. I'm all about the spam. I'm all about the find a dumb unit that nobody likes, that probably doesn't deserve to ever see the board, and then take 12 of them. That's what brings me joy in this hobby. Unfortunately, 40k doesn't let me bring 12 of them. I can only bring 3 of them. But, it could be worse. I think there's a lot of appeal playing a low model count army in 5-round events. Your games are over one way or the other in about half the time, and you can still have a great time while also catching good opponents off guard, like the Magnus Morty list. That's very true. Magnus Morty Knight list that beat Nick Nanavati's YOLO White Scars. What was probably insane for that dude? That was probably insane for that dude. Yeah, that's for sure. Talking about the last LVO. I remember that was like round 3 or something. It was like middle of the day on day 1, I believe. Maybe it was day 2. I can't remember. It was crazy early, and the tweets started flying out. Nick Nanavati lost, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, that's not supposed to happen. That's not how this movie ends. That does explain your Grey Knight fetish. Yep, you're not wrong. Round 2, okay, yeah, it was early. Super early. So it was middle of the day, day 1. Alright. So many black stripes. Did I do the... Yeah, okay, cool. Just checking to see if I did the big black stripes on the top carapace on the other side. And I did, so we're good there. I just have this, the shield, his face, and this leg. And I can move on to the yellow. And then move on to the silver. And then we'll see where we're at. I'm okay to go a little bit longer if I think I'll get more of the final project done. But it will be based on my battery level. Cannot stream for 8 hours with how I have my setup currently. And, you know, the whole point is to get it done in an hour, right? So, better hustle. And honestly, though, if I get all the yellow on and all the silver on, which I am dubious of, but if I did, I think you could safely say that's tabletop quality and go to an event with it because of everything else primed silver. It wouldn't be paint contest winning worthy or anything, but it would definitely place higher than the unpainted armies, so. I'm off tomorrow. Go as long as you like sitting here painting my Krieg boys. Oh, nice, nice. While I have everybody here, well, not everybody, obviously. While I have you people here, what do you mean by you people? My lovely viewers. What are your thoughts on the new title card, basically? The new straight from the pot, quote-unquote, logo compared to the old one. Like it? Don't like it? Indifferent? What are your thoughts? It's not changing regardless of what anybody says. That's what it's going to be for at least a little while. I'm just curious what people think. I think it's... Well, I won't say anything yet. Curious what people think about it. I'm doing a cork base for my bike bros. Nice. I do love some cork bases. And by bike bros, do you mean Outriders? Or Eldar bikers, or what? Scout bikers, maybe? Alright, just the shield to go. I like the new one. Awesome. Okay. 3 stripes to go. Alright. I just need to do the side of this. This is, I think, the only places with stripes that doesn't end in a metal filigree border or whatever, so. Okay. Oh, nope, I lied. Right here on the groin protector. Wonderful. All right. Now time for the yellow. What time is it? Probably, 8:39. All right, we did the black a lot quicker. That was 24 minutes for the red stripes. 15 minutes for the black stripes. Now for the yellow. There's going to be a lot of yellow on this guy. So I'm just going to go methodically and see what I can do here. Not a huge deal if I get some on the black and red, because yellow is a much lighter color, so it won't really cover over them. And I have planned to come back and touch up this contrast paint at a later date, because it's really not meant for things like this. So there will definitely be some drawbacks to doing it like this, but, and of course with an airbrush I could have already been done with these 3 steps with some quick paint or some quick tape jobs and an airbrush, but not what this show is about. Not the kind of painting style that I want to have on stream. There are many streams that do use an airbrush, and more power to them. They're probably more popular than mine, but this is the way I like to paint, so this is what's going on stream. I just noticed I missed a black stripe right here. We'll come back and fix it later. No big deal. I think that's, this might be a little too philosophical, but I think people who watch someone else paint are not looking at the painting 100% of the time. They're most likely doing something else. I'm sure there are some who just watch the painting. I will sometimes just watch the painting, but because of that, because I would guess most people are doing something else, if the painter is doing something that they are clearly enjoying, then I think it's a good viewing experience. If I was just forcing myself to do some style of painting that I absolutely hate, I think that would come across, and people would not enjoy watching this. Honestly, it's nice to have a stream to watch that doesn't use an airbrush. I mean, yeah, that's fair. If you are if you're wanting to replicate techniques or something, and you either A, don't have an airbrush, or B, just don't want to take the time to get it out right now, which is, to be honest, the case for me. I have 3 or 4 airbrushes, several inherited, one not. I'd rather just pull the paint out, get a brush, and go. And the obvious answer to that is, well, have your setup so you can just pull the airbrush out and go. Fine, just not for me. But I know what you mean about the not using an airbrush. Finding someone who isn't using an airbrush. Oftentimes I'll be browsing YouTube or something and see a thumbnail of something like how to paint white scars or how to paint awesome ultramarines in 5 minutes or something. And the first 3 steps are an airbrush. And I'm like, well, next video. I'm not getting my airbrush out, so I can't do that. So, I think there are a lot of people in that camp, to be honest. Oh, I missed another black stripe here. What am I doing? I think a lot of people I think a lot of people just paint with a paintbrush. I think probably a lot of people paint with a palette, though. I don't. That is the thing where I differ from a lot of people, I think. And I'm sure it makes my painting technically worse. I'm also sure I don't care. But I think a lot of people don't paint with an airbrush the majority of the time. Alright, there's the yellow on that. Trying to keep this thin so it doesn't pool up too much. I'm going to come back and basically dry brush sort of all 3 of these colors, the red, the black, and the yellow, with their color to sort of hide the, like up here you can see like there's some patchy parts, basically to hide that. Once I do that, not on this stream, I won't have time to do that on this stream, but you know, somewhere down the line after I get the whole army to this level, I think I'll go back and do that sort of just whenever, and that'll help a lot. But as I've said many times, and as I've said on this stream already, if you walked up to a game with a fully painted knight army all done with contrast and a fully unpainted knight army, which one's going to look better? I dip the brush in the paint, then in a little cup of water to thin it. I'm a horrible person. Hey, that is a viable strategy, and it clearly works for you. I've seen the outcome of your painting, and it looks just fine. As with most of us here in the local area, we aren't winning golden demons with our paint jobs, but a fully painted army looks way better than one that isn't painted at all. I love the airbrush, and I never understood the airbrush hate. Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of people specifically hate on the airbrush. I think a lot of people just can't be bothered. At least I like to think a lot of people can't be bothered, because I can't be bothered, and so, you know, you don't want to feel like you're alone in your opinions. The only thing I will say, which I don't understand really, is that I hear, I mean, granted, I guess this is from like Golden Demon quality painters and judges of that kind of quality paint job who say that, as a negative, will say that looks airbrushed. I don't know exactly why that's a negative, because again, I'm not that skilled of a painter. But I do hear that often. I don't think that applies to most of us, though. I think something that looks airbrushed looks just as good as, if not better, than something that isn't airbrushed, if they're the same quality. So, yeah, I don't think that... I think most people don't hate on the airbrush, as opposed to just not use it. I do need to get more contrast paints, though. I think that it'd help with doing squads for lots of models army. It's not hate here. It's I'm too lazy to go to the trouble. Yep, that's the same for me. Yeah, contrast paint is contrast paint triggered like a psychological. I don't want to say break, because like that's not the right word exactly, but it sort of did. It like broke my brain sort of when I got it. When I first got it, I painted a miniature with it, and I said, "Wow, that miniature looks pretty bad." It was a Triceratops, in fact. He's still over there on that shelf, and in fact, he was yellow. The exact paint I'm using right now. And in yellow. And I was like, well, that was pretty bad. I think I just wasted, like, however much money they were, $300 or whatever I spent on all of them. That sucks. I put them down for a day or two. Probably not. It was probably like an hour. It wasn't an hour. It was the next day, at least. And I painted something else, and I was like, it looks okay. And then, I can't remember what it was, but it was something. I think I painted a squad of maybe Stormcast Eternals or something, and I was done in, like, super fast. And I was like, this is it. And getting done that fast, this is finally looping back around to how it broke my brain, getting done that quickly triggered more happiness in me than the better paint job that would have come from not using them and going slower. And so when that occurred, I was like, well, this is it. I didn't paint the straw. When that occurred, I was like, all right, here we go. And pretty much since then, unless it's been a commission that someone has wanted to a higher quality, almost everything I have painted has at least had contrast paint on it. I need one that's pretty close to Calidor Sky Blue from Citadel. Calidor Sky Blue. I have that sitting here. Not right there. Let me paint this black stripe, and then I'll go pull out Calidor Sky Blue and... At least currently, that can be a problem with contrast paint, is there's not a lot of variety in the colors. I mean, 38 or whatever it is a decent variety, but nothing like 120 or whatever of the other ones. Calidor Sky Blue. Do I really not have it? Oh, nope. It's not there. I guess I'm out of Calidor Sky. Or it's hiding somewhere up here. That's a possibility. But, in any event, based on the thing on the rack, Talisar Blue is probably going to be your best bet. It's not going to be exact, but... let's see. Got to catch up real quick. I think people view it as a shortcut, which it kind of is. I just say use whatever tool you want to use. There's no rules. Yeah, I mean, that's basically, at the end of the day, paint however you want. If you want to use an airbrush, do it. I will say the difference is, going back to what Clark was talking about, it's nice to find a stream that doesn't use an airbrush. I think that stems from the fact that no one, I won't say no one, many people, I would say the vast majority of people, don't learn to miniature paint starting at an airbrush. They start with a bottle or a pot of paint and a paintbrush and go from there. And then learn down the line to use an airbrush. And so if a paint tutorial or a stream or whatever is using an airbrush, they either may not have learned that skill yet, or are much more comfortable using their brush skills And so seeing that airbrush can be an immediate turnoff. Whereas if you start with a brush and turn on, for example, if you turn on my stream, since I'll use myself as an example, I would guess there are very few miniature painters in the world who couldn't pick up the exact tools that I'm using here and be familiar with it. Like, this is a brush. Everyone knows how to use a brush who's in the painting world. That's a pot of paint. You open it and go. And so I think there can be some of that in the sort of negativity towards an airbrush, but I think negativity is the wrong word. I don't think that... I think it's like Clark said, it's laziness. At least for me. It's laziness, and I think that's for a lot of people the same way. Let's see. He is painted and glued together. Now I have to do his base. I assume Payton talking about the... what is the giant flying Tyranid? No, not the giant flying Tyranid. The thing that created the rule of 3. What is that Tyranid unit called? Someone took 9 of them to a tournament, and GW was like, whoa now, stop having that much fun. Paint as you will, and I will cheer for your results regardless of method. Yep. Dude, Greg, the pixelation thing is back. And it's gone. What the heck, man? I don't know. I don't know. I didn't see it this time. I mean, I trust you. I assume it was there. You're not lying to me, but I missed it this time. I imagine it's just something like my internet speed or something. I actually planned on upgrading to the next speed up unrelated to streaming, so maybe we'll never see it again after that. I don't know. Hive Tyrant. Yeah, that thing. Payton, I assume you're talking about your Hive Tyrant. So this should be the last of the yellow. And then gonna move on to the silver. And we'll see what we can do. We'll see if we can make a close to finished product happen. I think we're probably coming up on an hour here pretty quickly, if we're not already there. But in any event, I mean, I was talking and looking for paint and doing all sorts of stuff. So I think if I just sat and did nothing and just painted, I think I could have gotten farther in an hour. But I will happily trade this experience with everybody else for a little less paint progress. Yeah, it's 8:55. I don't think I'm going to be able to paint all this silver in 5 minutes. I mean, I have a large ego, but I just don't see it happening. But we're going to give it a go, see how far we get. Different paintbrush. I want that. Slightly larger paintbrush to maybe make progress a little faster. I'm going to do a cheaty thing here. Since I just have to make him look good in a picture, I'm going to paint him from the front and the top. Because no one's going to be picking this model up again before I'll have time to finish him. So if I just paint details that are going to be seen from the front, then I can say he's quote-unquote done. I am actually going to paint the whole of these shoulder pads and stuff, but for other detail, like I'm not going to focus anything on his back right now. I'm just going to see if I can get all the forward-facing detail painted. Not in the 5 minutes, obviously, but before the stream ends. Okay. That took longer. Just that shoulder pad took longer than I had hoped for, so. And this white primer is also not a good primer for this silver color, so there's a lot of things working against us here. But gonna do what we can. Definitely gonna need a couple coats on this stuff. If he liked pie, he'd be a pirate. It's true. If it was filled with biomass, I'm sure he would like a pie. I mean, I guess most pies are filled with biomass, come to think of it. I assume fruit counts as biomass. It has mass and is biological. Sounds like a correct statement to me. Ooh. A little bit of a mistake there, but that's okay. We'll fix that later. These filigree bits. Oh, that armor panel's completely off. No. Yeah, these filigree armor bits are the bane of my existence. The most recent knight I painted as a commission. Speaking of the airbrush, I used the airbrush because just trying to cut down on hours spent and therefore make the most bang for my buck, or make the most money there. We'll just say it that way. And painting these filigree armor panel things was sketchy because I was gonna have to go back and redo the airbrush work, and this is much less scary. Still a little scary because I'd have to go back and redo some stripes and stuff, but not nearly as bad as it would have been. Let me just double check here. Okay, battery's looking good. We can manage to do that. So I'm going to paint basically the silver filigree detail on him, and then call it a day on episode 50. And then I'll be back on Wednesday for episode 51. And because that's sort of it has a crossover audience for sure. I do share it in the Warhammer group, as you all know. I do often get a lot more random galactic people watching that. So I'm going to do something big, at least bigger, to celebrate getting to 50, even though it'll be episode 51. Not sure what that's going to be yet, but it'll be something. Something large and in charge. And then Friday, I'll be back with part 2 of my Treelord Ancient paint. I'm going to be painting all the bits and bobs on him. The little mushrooms that are on him. Basically just all the little details. And then that'll wrap this week up. And then the Friday following that, I mean Monday and Wednesday of the week after that will be as normal. The Friday after that, though, will be part 3 of that Tree Man. And that'll be his base. So I'm going to do a woodland sort of, like a clearing. Oh, I forgot this black stripe down here. A clearing in the woods, basically, with a stream running through it. That's going to be his base. So there'll be a resin stream on that video. So it'll take probably the whole hour to make that base come to life. So that'll be that, and then just keep on trucking from there. The YouTube channel recently hit 100 subscribers, so thank you everybody for that. And we're averaging about 1,000 views a month. I forgot to do the math on watch hours a month, actually, because that's what's important. But we're 1/10 of the way to the subscriber count required for mobile streaming directly to YouTube. As soon as that becomes a thing, I am going to start that. Just because, A, I'll be able to stream at 1080p as opposed to 720, which Facebook limits to, at least through mobile. I don't know if Facebook limits not mobile streams. I assume they don't. But then also the streaming directly on YouTube means that they are automatically uploaded as videos to YouTube. So it cuts out a little bit of the work for me, which means I can do more of the non-straight from the pop videos. Honestly, I could now. I have the time. I just prefer to not spend tons and tons of hours on the YouTube channel currently. That's currently not including the streams. I maybe spend 2 hours a week on it. Honestly, for a hobby, that's okay with me. That's a good little get my editing in for the week and then call it a day. So, but getting that 2 hours back, since the videos the streams will just be uploaded straight to YouTube, will mean that I can spend those 2 hours doing filming a basing video and editing that really quick, or doing a quick hits video, those time-lapse things, where I just time-lapse a paint job and then talk over it. So that'll be good. Alright, sort of almost done. I was starting to notice that this knight is sort of looking like a walking billboard for a rather famous fast food restaurant. And I'm not sure what I think about that. Maybe there's enough black on it that doesn't really come across. Of course, now I've said it, Anyone watching won't be able to unsee it if that's what they see, but I don't know, I might be able to slap enough other colors on him to change that. I'm gonna have to figure out what symbol is gonna go on this guy. I'm thinking a hammer. That would be cool. It's a relatively easy thing to freehand, and I think would look cool on the yellow, but we'll see. We will see. Okay. This thing's gonna fall off in a minute, but just gonna shake this up and paint this door real quick. With a hatch, I guess you'd say. I don't know. Are hatches doors? I think hatches are doors. I don't know what you've linked, Floyd. I see that you have linked something, though. Whatever it is, I'm sure it's cool. I cannot click it currently, though. But after the stream, I will click it. Everyone else, you should click it immediately. Find out what it is. I hope it's Floyd's competitor YouTube channel. Better Galactic Hammer. That would actually be awesome. If someone else made a YouTube channel and was like actively competing. Would be interesting. All right. Good enough. What are we looking at here? From the front, he's looking okay. Gonna do that panel, this panel. Call it a day. This is gonna fall off. I'm just gonna take it off. I'll paint it in my hand real quick. And then I'll stick it back on after the stream. Almost there. I can feel it. I mean, in terms of the project as a whole, nowhere close. But in terms of what I had hoped to accomplish on stream, I will have gotten these 4 colors like I wanted to done. So a little more than an hour. Probably close to an hour and a half by the time I finish this last panel. But I'll take it. If I hadn't decided to do stripes, I think I would have been done with these colors 40 minutes ago. The stripes definitely slowed me down, but that's okay. I think they look good. Right, there's that done. Now I'll just do this last shoulder panel here. And I forgot a black stripe right there. I just forgot them in all sorts of weird places. I'll come back and fix those at some point. Alrighty. And that will do for this stream. Now, I say that. For the sake of the picture, this is being white is going to bug me. So I'm going to grab a color, snakebite leather. And I'm going to do this part around the banner in snakebite leather. Just so that the forward-facing picture is a more or less complete-ish looking thing. There we go. Now it has a color on it. So I'll just pop this armor panel back on, at least for right this second. Good. There we go. And there he shall be, done, at least for now. I think for an hour and 16 minutes, with all those stripes and all that stuff, I think it's a pretty good accomplishment for an hour and 16 minutes. Definitely a lot left to do. Definitely not something I don't think I could accomplish in an hour, the whole thing. But like I said, if you took this, assuming it was based, if you took this and a bunch of other knights up to the same standard as this to a tournament, I don't think you'd get laughed off the table, and you'd look a heck of a lot better than knights that rolled up looking like this. So that's all that matters, really. So yeah, that'll do it. I already went over what my upcoming schedule is, so I won't go over it again. But thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you next time.